Welcome to In This Body, the online event to support parents and caregivers with staying regulated, embodied, and connected, even when things get intense. And today I'm excited. We are here, the core council of the Global School for Star Children. I have Tiffany, Daphne, and myself. Uh, I'm so excited that you're all here today. Just as a way of introduction to the Global School for Star Children, I'm going to read our mission and vision for those of you who are hearing of us the first time. So, the Global School for Star Children honors the dreams and visions of children by providing education in areas not taught in modern schools so that they may discover the greatest gifts within themselves, bringing humankind into a new heart-centered, creative, compassionate, and peaceful existence. We envision a world where every child is taught how to connect to their purpose so that they can use their gifts to offer their highest contribution to the world. In doing so, they will discover their truest happiness and expand their sense of what's possible for our world, spreading their love and raising human consciousness. Mm, yeah,
Yes, so beautiful.
yeah. Thank you so much, Tiffany and Daphne, for being here. Maybe now, what we're just gonna let it flow like a talk, and we'll talk a little bit about our school and why and how it came to being.
Yes, and I can go ahead and speak to this, and Daphne, please feel free to come in at any time. But our Global School for Star Children was really created at the heart of helping children, as you heard in our mission and vision, remember their beautiful gifts. And in the context of, we're talking about the body and embodiment, we're really asking that children come as themselves and we help them deepen into these beautiful parts and aspects of themselves that they can flourish, that they can become who they are meant to be in this beautiful world and walk their path without being disembodied, without being taken out of their natural state, and just to really walk their path in their light. And so this the way that this school came about is that this beautiful school teacher in Europe, she decided that she wanted to create a school for children who were highly sensitive, who perhaps were not learning to embody their gifts. In the school system that was sort of shutting down their ability to tap into their gifts and what it was to really learn what was truly important to walk their journey in this life. And so she tried to open this school. It actually didn't quite pan out in the way that she wanted to. And many years later, after having children and having highly sensitive children, she decided to connect with somebody she was following named Jocelyn Starfeather, who had a beautiful um, outpouring of community in her Sacred Planet community, where she was able to host the platform to establish a school that was online so it could reach a global audience and to really connect with these children all over the world who were feeling called, and the parents and the community that were feeling called to really connect with education in a new way, where like we said, content that you wouldn't necessarily find taught in regular schools around the world. And so this is our mission really is to call in these children, and we are the kind of second phase of this school that was handed over from Jocelyn Starfeather, who she said, I would like to pass this along. She has another adult school, School of Evolution, and she has decided that she would like to pass on the school for children to the teachers and to people who were really devoted to bringing in this kind of education in this next phase. So here we, Daphne, Nadine, and I have come together to really bring this content forward and really, really, yeah, call in this community. So that's a bit of the background. Daphne, Nadine, I don't know if you
Yeah,
want
and I would add in there that both of you have, a lot of experience working with children and being educators. And so, that it's really leaning into, all of our expertise. And I think what's so beautiful about this school is that it's really, it's for the caregivers, it's for the teachers, but it's really child forward. It's really what do kids want to know? So there was this, inspiration for kids that were noticed or that could speak up about things that they, or people that noticed them when they weren't receiving the support that they needed. But this really is meant for all children who have curiosity in the world or want support around some topic or issue or curiosity that they're interested in, and how can we support them in that. So it's really it is a global school for star children, and star meaning, the star is an expansive universal term, and also the star within ourselves. And how do we continue to build this community where we can support each other, all of us, and tap into that, that little inkling that we all hold within us, that we might not have felt that had the language to communicate, or felt that we really could understand about ourselves. And so this is to broaden what education means, um, you know, in this institution, and cultural and expansion, and, all of our existences.
Yes, and I might just add we offer a lot of classes that really help children embrace their gifts and their bodies. Classes such as sovereignty for teens, your sensitivity is a gift, creative expression journaling, herbalism classes, classes connecting with nature, and also some coming about universal dance, and just classes really exploring and doing embodiment practices, right? So being present in our gifts and learning to really just to be in that. So those are just some of the highlights from our school so far, and we have so many more to come. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I know, for my curriculum growing up, it was like math, which I enjoyed, English, language, science. And sometimes those are classes that are really helpful to, that, one can connect with and express themselves through. I know for me, English was so confusing. I love reading and I love writing, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand it conceptually right away. And so it's learning these languages, these ways of expressing ourselves, or understanding the institutions and what we're learning and how we're learning them, and all of our powers, all of our skill sets. And so maybe math speaks to someone, maybe English speaks to something, or language speaks to someone. And so it's, what are other ways we can learn to express ourselves? And I think this gets back into the embodiment. It's like, my body understands this teaching from this teacher, this topic, but sometimes I don't understand it, and sometimes I need another way to get to that understanding, and I think, kids, it is such an embodiment process. And so learning to have, a whole variety of ways to experience learning as a child, and growing up, to be able to process all of the information that we're receiving. So For me, sometimes it's going into nature and noticing patterns on plants. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, that's really interesting. This plant has a spiral, and then, oh, well, that sort of taps into other things that I'm learning in school. So, it's really allowing the full wonder, or trying to bring in the, an environment to have the full wonder of experiencing, our world around us.
Yes, so true. And I love how you mentioned it's a whole rethinking on how education is and how kids learn. And learning happens the most when it is an embodied experience where the child doesn't feel that they need to, they don't need to force themselves into something, but they need to bring their full presence, their full body to the learning experience. Um, and
Because
like
it can be scary when when it doesn't resonate right away.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and I
Yeah.
can speak into my my own experience as a child where it felt scary when I was in these very physical situations like physical education, where I wasn't comfortable with moving my body in front of other people. And there was no right way, there wasn't any aligned way from the teachers to really bring me back into that important topic. And I was only praised for academic achievements and like, okay, getting high grades, other subjects related to the body, like sports and yeah. Um, and I paid the price later as an adult.
Yeah, speaking to that, Nadine, I mean, as a teacher, I noticed that working with children of all ages, and I noticed working with the younger ones, they were so in their bodies. They were so present.
Mm.
They were just in this world of wonder and curiosity, and just they were this courage to not be afraid, to really just be who they were and to express themselves in any way that they were, right? And then I noticed just the children would get to around 7, 8, 9, and there would just be this slow evolution of watching children just start to really step back as they became more aware of their environment and who they were in it. All of a sudden, that awareness, that brings in so many life experiences that tends to sort of dim our light in ways that we're just not. It's sometimes it's a slow process, and for some people, some children, it's an incident that happens, and then it's so easy just to go outside of our bodies and say, hey, I'm going to look outside for the answers of who I should be and what is acceptable. And, you know, um, rather than, this just being completely in their embodiment as young ones. And by the time middle school and high school comes, there's just this, if it wasn't praised, like I know for me as a child, I was born highly sensitive, highly empathic. I felt everything. I felt, the words before they were spoken. I would walk into a room and feel the emotions of everyone there, and it felt very big and it was daunting. And it was hard for me to show up in all these spaces because I felt like I was taking it all on or feeling too much. And then that was reflected back to me by teachers and parents and loved ones. It was like, you're too much and your emotions are too big, the way that you're responding to all of this. And so I learned that it would be easier if I just dimmed my light, if I, wasn't too much, if I was more normalized. And so I started looking outside of myself, and I had just kind of, you know, left the part of me that felt very centered and very grounded. And so I know that that process for me actually didn't start unraveling until I was diagnosed with scoliosis at age 13. And my chiropractor suggested try yoga. And so I found yoga when yoga wasn't a thing. Grew up in a very small town. Nobody knew what yoga was, but my chiropractor had, you know, planted this little seed, and I was able to completely get back into my body where I had disassociated from the time I was like 7 or 8 years old, of just not wanting to be, you know, feel everything. And all of a sudden, I started feeling everything. And when that came back online, it was actually very overwhelming for me, because I was back in my body, and it was like so I had to find processes, and naturally, you know, aligning with, you know, long walks in nature, like going down and hiking down. I had a river behind my house growing up, and it was like the forest was my solace. And so that's where I would go to reconnect. And I found these natural grounding processes without understanding what the word term grounding was. But for me, as a sensitive and an empath, and it took, again, like 25, 30 years later for me to realize that I was that, and that I was embracing the world in this way and experiencing the world in this way, that these practices of grounding were actually bringing me back into presence, bringing me back into my body, allowing me to be more present with my children, with myself, with the engage with the world, re-engage with the world around me in ways that I hadn't been able to do for a long time. Because feeling too much, again, after you've been out of your body and coming back in, it's like a shock to the system, right? And so I had a whole journey of finding teachers and different pathways of showing me how to remain embodied and feel safe in the body, which I think is another big conversation, because it's sometimes it's scary to feel everything, right? It's a but it's also so powerful when we're able to stay embodied. And so I feel like when I engaged with the Global School for Star Children, one of my biggest core values that I aligned with was just wanting to teach children that one of my first classes was Your Sensitivity is a Gift. It was because I wanted children not to feel that they were too much, or that, you know, their gifts of feeling in their body were not allowed in this world. It is actually a superpower, and how to bring that into awareness and to hold it and to walk, you know, through this life with that, um, which I am still learning, and probably will be a journey for the remainder of my life. It's a process, right? Especially now, these times are a potent test. But I feel like this is the process, and this is why I really feel so strongly that this school will help children in this way. So.
That's beautiful. And I think, it reminds me, of my growing up and, my childhood. And it's the people that see you, so like whether you have this out of body experience, or for me, sometimes I kind of did a withdrawal because I didn't quite understand something that maybe I felt like I didn't understand something that the rest of the class understood, or, I didn't know how to do it the way that this other person was expecting it to be done. And they're an adult. I'm trying to interpret their expectations. And so, it's being seen, or experiencing, being exposed to that message, or lesson, or inspiration, support, that suddenly allows us to feel safe and to be able to open up to our full potential. And, that's what we're hoping to do at the global school, because we want to it is a global school for a reason, that it's bringing in teachers from all over the world and welcoming children from all over the world so that we can all be seen and supported and offered the gift, the gifts, the insights, um, the empowerment, that we can all use. And like you're saying, Tiffany, it's a lifelong journey. We're all children inside. We all carry our memories of being children. And, we are surrounded by children in one way or another. And um, so, yeah, it's really celebrating what we know inside, what we know instinctually, what we know from these wise people that have come into our lives, and that we can share that with the people you know, that are around us.
Absolutely. I love that, Daphne. And there's a quote, and I'm forgetting who said it, but it was, becoming our truest selves. I believe it was Young. Don't quote me on that, but becoming our truest selves is like the greatest gift, right? That we could ever. And I'm not quoting it per se, but that's the gist of it. And I really feel like that is the greatest gift in this life, is to embody and to know our truest selves, because that lends itself to naturally, just being who we are and walking this path. Yeah.
Yeah, and as children, I think every child really is born with n real that knowing of who they are. They are already born with that knowing really strong. But as they grow up and they get told, no, don't do this, do this, that's knowing dims down. Yeah. Uh, and maybe this is what we can talk a little bit more about on what we are trying to do with this school. Um, that we're trying to, as Daphne said before, we're trying to nurture those gifts inside them and let the kids know that they are valued and they are seen and heard. Yeah.
And there's a lot going on, and all of us are inundated with so much information. And and it's not it's a lot of negative outlooks on things sometimes, and it may not be quite balanced with what is really happening. But there is so much beauty out there. I mean, there's so much, and this is where children, to me, really remind me of the wonder and the hope and the optimism, and the excitement of this world, is just going outside and seeing a butterfly and it lands on their finger and they get giggles, or noticing something about this tree that has suddenly, has these crazy little leaves that are blooming, or, are coming out in the spring. And so I think that, there is so much beauty, that this world offers us. Um, there are so many gifts that are available to us. And like you're saying, Nadine, I think that children have that innate ability to recognize that. And Tiffany, you touched on that too. And I think that I to me feels like one of the greatest forces of this world is to really see and really understand the wonder, the miracles that we have been allowed to experience by being here. And children have that perfect innate language to understand that. And I think what the world is telling us is that, we can continue to embrace that. And we lost Nadine for a second. Are you back? The world is such an interesting place. And technology is one of the interesting aspects of it.
Yeah, but I love that you brought up that point, Daphne, because I really feel like it is engaging with the world. Like I know, when I can remember being little and it's like the world was not separate from me. I was experiencing the world just as part of myself. You go out, children go out into nature, and it's like they can feel it all, they sense it all. They're just it just in the middle of the sensory experience. And for me, I actually ended up having two very different children, but my son is very highly sensitive. My daughter's empathic. They experience the world in such different ways. But both of them, like we would, go out into nature or we would experience, they would just have this visceral experience, just touching and getting into it. They were experiencing with their bodies, with their senses, with their feeling aspects. And when children engage that way, I just feel like it becomes that the learning is so much more embodied, right? They don't they don't separate themselves from it. It becomes an experience that they remember when we engage with the senses. So in our global school, I feel like we're bringing in those aspects, though we don't yet have it anchored in local communities and we don't have a physical place yet. It is a place for children around the world to gather and to learn tools and aspects and be able to go out. Like a lot of our, I mean, we don't do homework, but a lot of our practices, we say, go experience this for yourself. Go out into nature, go and learn. And I know, Daphne, you can speak to this too, being an herbalist, but having the children just really engage with the plants and Nadine in your beautiful astrology class, and go out and look at the stars. And we're bringing this whole, you know, concept of, the universe as self, but and and vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, yes, absolutely. As an herbalist, I just, the fact that plants offer, we've had a relationship with them our entire existence as human beings. And so there's a real synchronicity that is there and available for us to discover in so many ways, all the, emotionally, spiritually, physically, emotionally. I've already said that one, all of them. But even I have one of my children is very artistic. It's even, appreciating the, journaling, the art that we bring to this world too. There's so much to receive from what's around us, but there's so much to celebrate in what we bring forward too, and what children bring forward in their creativity and their wonder and you know even just sort of these architectural marvels and these there's so much beautiful things that we as humans have manifested and conjure up and I think that it's wonderful to see that in children, just this immense capacity for creating amazing, amazing things in this world, for this world.
And any tips you have for that parents who have those sensitive, empathic kids? Any like top tips on for parents who don't know where to start? Um,
Yeah, I can speak to that. I just really, as I said, allowing, creating opportunities for the children to engage with their sensory experience of just being in the world and allowing them to to go out. And it's like I remember being so worried, when it was like raining. It's like I didn't want my child to go out and get wet in the puddles, but that is really the way that my child wanted to engage with the world. he experienced water and this joy and this, this presence. And so just, allowing the children to experience, to feel, to have big emotions, to process in the way that they need to, and to not tell them, I feel like as a new parent, I was like, don't do this, oh, there was a lot of no's. And I realized the no's were something that when I engaged with that as a child, that was the light dimming, right? The you can't do this. And so just really allowing children to experience life and giving them multiple opportunities, removing, and I know this is so hard, and I deal with it with teenagers now, but the screens, the constant bombardment of um, what the outside world is telling them to be, and to take them out into experiences where they get to experience it for themselves, and to learn how they best engage with the world, and that brings them into a greater sense of self. And so that's my biggest, and as a teacher, that was also what I was trying to bring into my classroom environment as well. Always was just letting the children experience, even if I knew that the outcome might not be so great. And of course there's boundaries and there's rules and things that we have to uphold, but giving them the freedom to explore and experience, I think, is the greatest gift.
I think that's so beautiful. And, it is so important, the tangible experience. And right now we have, for our global school, it is an online platform, but we do offer a lot of, we're trying, we want to really bring in, one of the things that I love about what the teachers bring forward is a lot of these like meditation or sound journeys, and trying to make it as, that tangible, just trying to make it as connected as we possibly can into our bodies so that we can ground. And, like I do a lot of online yoga classes, and it's like, I still want to be, even though it's online, it means something to me to be part of the group. And so trying to tap into our bodies, doing a little dance, doing, in my classes, walking outside, touching something, and creating a community as we can, globally, in with the tools that we have. And of course, yes, we intend to have this all be in person as well as online. But what's beautiful about the online is that we really can celebrate and utilize a lot of what we know, and what we've learned about the sound and about these meditations and about these journeys, and using our imagination to go to places together. It's been very powerful. It's been a very powerful experience and useful, because these are tools that we can all take away. The children can take away, the parents and caregivers can take away and bring into their own household. So this could just be a conduit for something that can become in the person, in the household, in the community, um, you know, for everybody.
Yes, and the beauty of it being online, that it is accessible to everyone, and it's also sometimes self-paced, and they can return to it at convenient times. And in the astrology class that I taught, for example, I actually invited parents to be there with their kids so that they can have this experience together and talk about it later and connect over it and do the play work together. Uh, so we're starting with whatever is available to us right now, and uh, we do say yes, we don't want our kids on screens, but again, this technology we have, if used in the correct way, can really create difference down the line. And just having these sort of education and tools available globally A lot of parents in certain communities might miss that locally, and having that online option can really be helpful. Um, I personally, I move around a lot. I travel a lot. So sometimes when I'm in a new city, I still don't have those connections. And knowing that I have an online community I can always fall back on and rely on has been really supportive to me as a parent, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said about that, Nadine. I feel like it's how we engage with the technology, right? Are we just using it as something to distract us, right? And to pull away from, or are we using it to open us and engage in other ways? And I know, like you, I have to experience that. I grew up in a very small town. We didn't have access to anything. And again, my yoga was done on a little video cassette. I'm dating myself, right? That I found at the library. And it's like, that was the technology we had back then, but that allowed me to engage with an experience that really was transformative. And so I think that's what we bring in this online experience with our school, and that we're trying. It's a different way of engaging, not just, we're not trying to distract, but we're trying to open and allow connection. And I think bringing in community and even parents who can engage. I think a lot of us teachers invite the parents in, and we're going to have a community aspect, where parents can engage. So this is something I think that is very needed at this time. As connecting and community is also a different way of engaging. So I think, yeah, I love what you said about that, Nadine, and I think it's very relevant. Yeah.
And a lot of the teachers have materials that they want to share, which is so beautiful. So we're just trying to be a portal where this can just be easily accessed. So, if there's something that can be downloaded, or, the parent or caregiver can, have access to it and then present it however they want to their children. That's really the intention, is to just make what kids are curious about available to children in a warm and supportive environment.
Mm. Yeah, I love what you said there. Make what the kids want available. Yeah. Um, I think one last thing to wrap it up around, just how can we let our kids know that this body they're in is actually the most valuable thing they have? Um, if if you can speak a little bit to that.
I mean, one thing that I do sometimes that helped me, from my childhood is just sort of, look at myself and just be appreciative. Like, oh, this is my hand. This hand can pick up a pencil. This hand can open a book. And remember, that gratitude. Like, we're this crazy organism of all these different organisms within. We're this beautiful blob of synchrony, synchronicity. And so sometimes, yeah, for me, it's like, oh, I can become critical. And then it's, oh, this actually functions. This foot gets me step by step. I can climb a mountain just step by step. My feet and my ankles and my knees and my thighs and my hips and my arms, they all manage to climb a mountain or climb a tree or bask in the sunlight in the backyard, or, so that's one way I think about it.
That is so beautiful, Daphne. Yeah, and I really feel like getting into this body for me, deep into my 30s, it was re-engaging with my body in ways where I was connecting with my life force energy. So it was Qigong and Tai Chi, and that brought me back in. And so I feel like any way that children can feel safe in their bodies, or any of us for that matter, really, if it's just moving the life force energy through a painting, through, in any sort of medium with art, you're sculpting, you're writing, you're using, your voice, you're singing, bringing us back into the life force energy that we all carry within us is really, I think, the process of re-engaging our body, of feeling safe. And so for me, a lot of it is grounding practices. Um, and that could be as simple as just putting your bare feet on the ground, sitting in the sun and feeling it touch and permeate your skin, going out and wading in a river, and listening, closing your eyes and hearing the world around you, of just experiencing again. I feel like that allows us to just feel safe and engaged and held by something that's a bit bigger than us, but also part of our life force energy, and really, really brings us back into presence and who we are, and who we're becoming, and how we're connected with it all. Really is just such a beautiful process.
Yeah, those two answers are so beautiful, Daphne and Tiffany. Uh, Thank you so much. Um, if people want to learn more about the Global School for Star Children, we have a very beautiful website. I'll put the link below this recording. And we have a gift for those who just like to sign up. Tiffany, do you want to speak a bit about that?
Sure, you can go onto our website, at the Global School for Star Children.com, and you can find us, at the Global School for Star Children. If you could just Google that in, and we are there. There's a free meditation that it brings you into connecting with both yourself on the earth and in the stars, and who you are, and just this process of re-engaging with your body. So we welcome and invite you to experience that as our free gift to you.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Uh, any last thing you'd like to share before we end?
I'm just so grateful you're doing this summit, Nadine. I think this is just so important, and putting words to something that we've all had experiences with in our own lives, one way or another, and and to turn it into a celebration and something that we can really lean into and and learn about. So thank you for doing this.
Yes, I agree, Nadine, and I think this is such a potent conversation to be had at this time, when we can be so distracted and pulled out of our bodies, and to actually bring us back into this place of remembering and re-engaging with our bodies in this way. I think is just the most beautiful gift at this time. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ah, thank you too. Thank you too. I really want people to know that it is an important topic, and there are people out there really talking about it, and there's so many resources to help parents, especially. And yeah, it's the body is the only home we have. Mm, mm. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
you.